Hi, so the diagnostic cluster that I want to talk about is schizophrenia. I have worked a significant amount of time in the mental health field, 5.5 years at the state hospital and 3 years in a secure residential treatment facility where the primary diagnosis of the client was schizophrenia. So the experience I've had is the more disabling side, someone who was institutionalized, and my assumption was that was the picture of what schizophrenia looks like. And through the readings, I've seen the recovery end of where they've been inside the hospitals and then they've been able to function in their life or manage when they are stabilized on a medication. If and when they realize that they need the medication due to insight or low insight, and then accepting the process of medication, and then sometimes they do have to go into the hospital. Some of the troubling aspects of schizophrenia is the possibility for suicide. In the movie where the doctor was researching her father's relationship with schizophrenia, I was really startled to find out that he had committed suicide at the end. One of my clients had attempted suicide due to a delusion that basically commanded him to commit suicide, and then it wasn't premeditated. No one had known. No one had suspected it. He had gone on a path, and it was pretty horrific. And so realizing that the clients are so traumatized by their delusions. One important aspect of this illness is the stigma. It is so pervasive, even from the clinical staff. I have experienced working at the state hospital, delusions in the backroom talk, where I was reading the report and the little side comments it was really disheartening for me. I would say my experience, maybe things have changed. That was 15 years ago. I felt things were archaic, but maybe things are still the same, that the stigma is so pervasive. When they were getting ready to build the residential treatment facility, there was protest in the neighborhood, and the mayor had convinced the city to purchase the land to prevent the company from building on that site within that neighborhood. And the attitude was that people with schizophrenia were violent, and this really isn't the case. I think that people just aren't really exposed to it. In some of the work I've done in the community of finding people who are in recovery and are not institutionalized, they do live with their illness and they do socialize. And this is an important aspect, is finding some sort of socialization. I really identified with the piece about the 4 quadrants of accepting the diagnosis or not accepting the diagnosis, or accepting the diagnosis but with empowerment, like realizing that there is a stigma, but not resigning to that and accepting the futility and like the fate. It's just becoming active in the recovery process. The brain is so complex, and yet we do know more about schizophrenia, but there's so much unknown, whether it's a biological component. I had read one piece that said that schizophrenia is a consequence of living in our society, and it's just like a byproduct of evolution. That could be one way of looking at it, but there's no doubt that people who have schizophrenia suffer, and so do the family members. And one of the heartbreaking aspects is the disconnect, or the estrangement that people with schizophrenia have from their family. I do have an uncle who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I know nothing about him. I do have a family history of mental illness, and my experience with that is estrangement. I have little contact with family. So that's one part of recovery, is finding a community and a network, and that people need a sense of family, even if it's not your birth family. Thank you for your time.